Why you had to make me go call up my side guy? Can't let a F-boy F up my nice vibe. Yo, Ariana, come let me get you a high five.
Hi, honey. You
Hello.
look great.
Oh my God, thank you. So do you.
Thank you. How's your day going?
It's going all right. I can't complain. It's been pretty chill. I've had like a really hectic past few days. One of my really good friends, her boyfriend asked me and a friend to help him propose over the weekend.
Yes.
So I'm
Sending
still
great vibes.
on from that. It was so beautiful. But
I hope y'all got a lot of video.
Huh?
I said, I hope y'all got a lot of video.
Oh, you know, if I was there, so.
Okay.
You are, yeah.
You're like content queen.
How are you doing?
I'm good, man. It's been nonstop content today. Like even at school, I took a break to do content, and I was like, it's one of those days today. That's for sure.
Oh, you had a whole content day today.
Yeah.
Hi, Ati. Hi, Andrew.
Hey. All right, guys. Well, I guess now that we got the room a little bit more full, let me go ahead and introduce everyone. This is That Femme Fatale podcast, and currently today we're going to be interviewing my close friend, Sunshine. I'm going to let her introduce herself, tell you guys what she does and her social media platforms.
Yeah, of course. I'll introduce myself briefly, but because I have some people on here and I know they'll be popping in from my side too, I'm gonna pass it back to you for a second.
Okay.
I want you to introduce you too. So for those who don't know, hi, my name is Sunshine. That is my real name, like always a question that I get. I am a video content strategist. I have a business called Sunshine. Hey, the butterfly effect. I have a business called Sunshine Digital, which I started working in full-time just a little over a year ago. And so I help brands and businesses strategize their content, their video content, specialize in video when it comes to anything TikTok, YouTube, Instagram Reels, video content in general, even like product videos or video content for the brand or website. So that's my little bubble.
Yes, ma'am. And for my people that are watching, wait, you got to tell them where to follow you.
Oh, yeah. So right here on this account that I'm going live from, Sunshine Digital, it's DGTL without the vowels. I'm also pretty active. I think I'm more active on TikTok, honestly. Sunshine Digital, just all spelled out. And then LinkedIn. I'm trying to be more active on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, you got to tell me, because I hear about that all the time. I don't maximize LinkedIn like that, so I might have to ask you about that.
Yeah, we'll put a pin in it. We'll talk about that. Yeah.
Say less. All right. Okay. Well,
what about you? What about you? Let's. Who is she?
Who is this girl? For people, the audience members that don't know me, my name is Ashley. I am a multi-entrepreneur.
Yes.
Right now, we're currently streaming on my podcast account, and I am a goddess and lifestyle coach. I help people promote mental health and wellness, and also aligning that with achieving their goals and reaching where they want to be in their career, no matter what it is.
Wow.
Oh, and don't let me forget where you guys can follow me. I'm going to drop just these profiles for my podcast because I have a lot of different social media. So for YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Spotify, it's That Femme Fatale podcast. And for Twitter, it's That FF podcast because they have a character limit. So you know how that goes.
Yeah. You know what? I'm just going to warn you right now that this is probably more likely going to be like a two-way conversation because I'm just naturally curious too. And so I'm probably going to be like interviewing you back in a second. Okay.
No, that's fine.
I would love to know where does the name the Femme Fatale podcast come from? Like what inspired that? I think that's so interesting.
You know, this is the second time I heard that. The first person that asked it was my mom, so I kind of was prepped for this just in case. So for me, and you know me personally, I live my life very unapologetically. Like, I am who I am. I love both sides of myself. One of the things I practice is duality. So being aligned with both the good and bad parts of me. the connotation, I feel like most people, when they've heard of femme fatale, is like very rebellious, someone that goes against the grain, that necessarily doesn't fit the stereotype that women are given. And sometimes it's looked at in a negative way. And for me, I kind of, not even kind of, I'm taking back that word and that power and using it for strength, because I am building my platform on not seeking validation from other people, for being me, loving both those parts of me and maximizing on it.
Wow. Wow. Solid answer. You've definitely answered that question before.
Girl, my mom was like, so what did, when I tell you she dissected me, so I was like, okay, the next time I get this, I'm going to know exactly.
I'm going to be on it.
Right.
That's good. Mom was looking out. I love that.
She was. Aww. Was definitely. So, I'll hop right into the questions and we'll just do it back and forth. You ready?
All right, let's go.
All right. So, what is it being a female in the social media marketing industry? And is it gender dominated?
Interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting question. So, I feel like when it comes to my experience, because I'm not limited to just the social media marketing industry too, I've kind of worked across different departments, from marketing to also just like production, and then also social media, and there's been crossover there. And I found, from my experience, from what I can see, I feel like the female presence in social media marketing is pretty dominant, which it's great. It's a lovely, the female energy is just a really lovely and safe energy to be in general. I think that women just feel safer with each other. It's not perfect, but I definitely find myself letting my guard down a little bit more when I'm working with women, because there's just things that you don't have to think about when you're interacting with women versus when you are interacting with men. I would say that, like, in my experience, because again, I don't want to make blanket statements or speak to generally, when I just have such a limited scope of experience. I'm one person. So I think that in more like corporate video production and like marketing departments, it can be a toss-up. In the video production space, it does tend to lean a little bit more male dominant. I think it can be a mix. It really depends. And I think that those are all kind of notable because, again, when I was talking about just like me personally feeling safer working with women, like feeling just more, I just feel like I can speak more openly right away. And I've been working on it. It's been a process over the years to just like allow myself to have more of a voice over the years. I've gotten so much better at it. Oh my God, so much better at it.
I'm happy about that.
When I was younger, oh man. But I to back to your original question, like I would say that the challenge comes more in like the male dominated spaces when you are one of the fewer women. And I don't want to say that just to say that, and I think that there's a lot of well-meaning people out there, because I don't want to just, again, generalize and just assume that like, oh, just because this person is a guy or a male, that like they're not going to be respectful. No, there are respectful people across boards, but I do think that sometimes there are just like unconscious biases and behaviors just towards women in general in the workplace. And I think there's also an added layer of when it comes to being an entrepreneur and networking and just being like a professional. I find that my challenge is, I guess, like networking and interacting with men when I'm not sure what their intentions are,
It's like trying to read them.
Yeah. And so I definitely treat everyone with respect, and I'm like as authentic as I feel comfortable being, like right off the bat. I do work on trying to just be more authentic than not, but I'm not gonna lie, like there are some times where I will have my I feel like it's more of a challenge to be myself, and I have to have my guard up a little bit. I think especially like in prospecting and doing business with like potential clients or just like partners or whatever that you have to work with, when there are little moments where it feels like they have alternate agendas, you know, when they're trying to do things other or get something from you other than business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, hey, the Denise show. That is such a, oh, that is such a good comment. She said, I find the older I get, the more I realize when a man throws microaggressions.
Oh,
that was so beautifully put. I was struggling to find the words to it, but
for microaggressions.
That is so on point because, I don't know. It's just, you don't, I'm such a person that doesn't want to like assume too quickly. I always try to look at both sides and give benefits of the doubt. And it's usually not until I replay scenarios later on that I was like, that I'll be like, damn,
Like red flag.
not okay. Yeah, that gave me a weird gut feeling. And so even if I can't name it in the moment, I feel like I can get a gut feeling, and that's when I'll kind of start to pull back and start to put up some boundaries, you know?
Yeah.
So that's the biggest challenge, I think, is just trying to determine whether or not people have genuine intentions when trying to do business with you, or if there is an alternate agenda. And more often than not, that comes from men. And so, like I keep saying, I naturally just like open up so much more easily when I'm working with women.
Exactly. And then to just kind of piggyback off the comment with the microaggressions and like you said, with your gut instinct, do you find it, well now throughout your gaining experience in the career field that you're in and also becoming more aware of yourself, do you find it easier to allow your intuition to guide you in the field that you're in?
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. And that was something that I really struggled with in the beginning because I because I'm someone who is not presumptuous and someone that kind of values not doing things right away, it can be a little bit more challenging to allow myself to trust my intuition, because I don't want to be like, oh, I was just making an assumption, you know, and I was just assuming before I had all the information. I'm someone that likes to have like as much information as possible before I make a conclusion about someone or something. And even when I do make a conclusion about something or feel like I have an idea of something, it's always still open to be evolved with new information. That's the type of person I am. And so when it comes to the topic of intuition, it's such a double-edged sword, you know. There are some times where you have no choice and you just have to act on that gut feeling. And then there are other times where, looking back, you could be like, oh, I thought that was intuition, but I think that might have been a trauma response.
You know? Oh my God.
And so it's always learning, but I feel like when I first it's a whole learning experience.
My goodness.
I feel like when I first went full-time, did the first full-time entrepreneurship thing, when I left my 9-to-5 and decided to work for myself full-time, I was trying to be very by the book and you know, just trying to learn from others' mistakes and take in all the advice I could get from others. And then I've learned, you know, there's no rule book for a lot of things, because your journey is your journey, someone else's journey is their journey, and like not everyone has the information and the lived experiences that you've had. So at the end of the day, you're still the best person to make that decision for the situation you're in. So I think like a year later, I feel much more comfortable doing that versus when I first started out.
Yeah, and you're going to continue to evolve and get better and continue. I'm so excited to see where you grow and go to. Like, that's going to be amazing. And then,
Ashley.
Yes, ma'am. Denise, you're so correct. That's so true. Trusting yourself is a big deal, no matter what industry you're in, especially even gender-wise. It doesn't matter, but just being a person, once you learn how to really trust yourself, your journey gets so much easier. Like, man.
Again, No, that's such a good point. Man, Denise, like, should we just have her hop on here too? Because she is,
Right. It's like,
uh,
man,
yeah,
I'm
no,
loving it though.
that's such an amazing thought too. And it's so true because at some point, then you stop relying on, you know, the actions of others, and those variables shouldn't affect you if you're really solid within yourself. And that's just like personal life thing, but then
Exactly.
that also really relates to your content as well, you know, and the content that you put out. It's almost like if you allow others to, and their validation and their thoughts and their projections to determine your path, then it's going to be a very, very difficult, wobbly, and very rocky path. Not to say
Exactly.
when you're on your own, but it's it's much better to be walking a path that you lay out for yourself instead of like waiting until someone else lays it out for you, you
And
know?
then you might not even be able to walk that path once they
Oh
do.
my
You're
God,
just
we
like,
break our
this
goals.
isn't it. Oh my goodness. So it was perfect that we even got on this because this just takes me like right into the next question. So with all of that and with learning to trust yourself, learning your journey as far as content and life, as I said earlier, like I'm really big on mental health. How does this usually directly reflect and affect your mental health? And how do you maintain the balance with your work and personal life?
Oh my gosh. It does not just affect it. It all like stems from it. Mental
Mm,
health is the center of it all. And I feel like this is not talked about enough. I mean, thankfully, in general, the conversation of mental health has become bigger, I think, largely in part to social media. So I know that social media has such a stigma and like a negative connotation to it these days. And I'm more of an advocate of like using it as a tool to work with you and for you instead of like you being a slave to your social and your devices, you know. But I think that what's not talked about enough when it comes to the conversation around creating content, being an aspiring content creator, wanting to start creating content, whether it's for yourself, a brand, or a business, is the mental health side of it, you know, because you hear a lot of sound advice at that. It's very sound advice to be consistent and to show up consistently, you know. But the other side of that is the way that you're showing up. Is that impacting your mental health? You know, are you biting off more than you can chew? Are you giving more energy than you are getting from this these creative projects or the creative things that you're putting yourself into? And I'm not against hard work at all. I'm not a fan of hustle culture, like what that whole thing
man,
turned into, like that whole like weird, what that weird time of grind culture
it
where
was
like
yes, where
that was
everyone
weird.
was like, "I'll sleep when I die."
That's
Remember
like
when
what I
that was like a
yeah.
big quote? I even caught myself using it a few times, and then as I've grown, I'm just like, why?
I'm like, no,
Knowing your mental health journey, why would you do that? And like now I can reflect and be like, okay, that was definitely one of those hit and miss moments and I missed, but goodness
but
gracious.
I can't blame anyone for falling into it because I think that the intention was good. You know, it was meant to motivate people towards success and to like I think inspire people to, you know, put some skin in the game for the things that they want. But I think
Yeah.
somewhere along the way, it just went way out of balance. The whole like
Toxic.
sleep when I'm dead thing. And it's just like, it made us feel very shameful about rest. And
Yeah.
it took a long time for me to understand that rest is productive, you know, because you're no good to anyone, to the work that you're doing, to the content you're trying to put out if you're burned out. Like,
Exactly.
if you feel like a zombie, you know, what justice are you even doing for these projects or things that you want to put yourself into if you have nothing? So
Exactly.
yeah, just back to the original question of how mental health plays a role in content creation and social media marketing, all that. I think it's really the center, and that's why. So with my clients, whenever we come up with content schedules for them or content plans for them, I'm also always really concerned. I don't know if concern is the right word, but I really like to take a look at also like their energy levels. And we test out the back end or the production side of it too, as much as we test out the content itself. So it's like, okay, we're gonna, for this first month, you know, we'll test out what content we're gonna put out and how that's gonna perform. But what I also want to look at is how was creating this content for you? Was hitting all of those like frequency goals and all those marks, like was that too draining for you? Even if were you hitting them, were you like freaking miserable at the end of the day and super drained and exhausted and not able to do anything else because you were spent? Or was it a pretty decent process for you? Did you still like have some energy, you know? And so I look at both ends because it's so important. It doesn't matter if you can hit these targets of, oh, I want to post like on TikTok. A lot of people say like, you know, you should post like 2 to 3 times a day or whatever when you're first starting out. But like, even if you were able to post 2 to 3 times a day for, let's say, the first month, but you were like killing yourself doing it, and by the end of it you had nothing left, and then you just end up needing to take a really long break, or maybe not even, you don't even feel like coming back to the platform because it just is so daunting.
Yeah,
at that point it's just like that's counterproductive. And so I'm all about like finding finding workflows and processes that work for not only your audience so they know what to expect from you, but also for yourself too, because you're the center of it all. It starts from you, so you have to take care of yourself first and foremost.
amen to that. Oh my goodness, that is so true. Like I can relate to that so much, especially like you're familiar with my social media, so you know like how I've been posting and how everything was. And there was a period of time, like I feel like I'm finally at a healthy balance, but there was a period of time where I was consistently posting and I fell off the grid for a bit. I was like, oh wait.
Yeah.
Like it was intense. It's a lot harder than people think. And it's rewarding, especially when you love it. But to constantly be caught up, like you said earlier, in the hustle culture and make a variety of content, and then also at the time constantly be evolving as a person, it gets a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, I totally understand. And I'm still like, I still haven't fully found the balance for myself. I'm still testing different things out all the time. And I'm still taking lots of hiatuses all the time.
Yeah.
It's different for everyone. I also think it's different for everyone in different seasons of their life, because what worked in one season of your life might not work in another season of your life. And so it's really about just giving yourself grace to adapt, because life never stays the same. You never stay the same. And finding ways to make it part of your lifestyle and make it something that you can still enjoy, you know, because if you're just gonna give yourself like another full-time job, you might as well get another full-time job that has like a higher salary off the bat.
Literally,
you know, like something that you don't really like, that you gotta like, you know, put so much energy and feel drained from, because creative burnout, that's a really hard one to come back from.
Man, who are you telling? I literally, for a minute there, specifically, like one of the areas of expertise where I make content and make a living, I've taken, it was 3-month break. It's now 4 months, and I'm still doing other content and doing other things. Yeah. But it's just like I put so much into that, along with all the other things that I'm doing. I'm not necessarily sure if at this moment it's the healthiest for me to even go back to it. Did I enjoy it? Yes. Was it the greatest for my mental state? That one's still kind of like a toss-up in the air. So until I know for sure that I can be happy, healthy, and go back into it and continue doing everything else, then yeah, I'll do it. But until I can actually say that and be secure in that answer, I'm not going to.
I hear that. And you know, it might just also have to be, if it's something that you still want to give a shot and you're still open to that possibility, or you haven't completely shut that door yet, it might also just have to be a matter of like adjusting your expectations, because sometimes we hold ourselves to an impossible standard, especially those of us who are perfectionists and just our own worst critic. You know, I find that one of the most draining things and one of the most detrimental things to consistency when you are wanting to like be consistent creating content is trying to be too perfect and trying to do too many retakes. I kind of have a rule for myself when it comes to any video that I'm doing on my own. And even, I even tell this to my clients. I encourage my clients not to do more than like 2 or 3 takes. Anything past that, like you're just going to be burning yourself out and you're going to be draining yourself. It's like the words won't even mean the same thing to you.
Right. Now you're just like that repetitive.
Yeah. And then trying to completely be clean of any or for me the problem is saying like too much. Sometimes I'll just like
feel the words.
edit, spend so much time editing out all the times I say like, because I hate the way it sounds.
You should literally, instead of editing, edit it out. But in one of your videos, like the blooper reel on the end, create like a montage of all of it. I promise you that would be amazing to watch. Actually, it's like,
you know, but there are times where you do that so much to the point where it's just like, I don't even want to do this anymore. I'm on my 17th take, and why am I even doing this? You know, and I've definitely had those moments where I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna scrap this idea because it's not working out, because I've done 17 takes and I just can't find the perfect one. And so it's just, this is just not it. This is not the one. And looking back, it's like, you know, that was completely self-inflicted. You know, your audience, there's a 99% chance that your audience does not care if you stumble or if you stutter over something, or if you take a long pause or whatever, as long as what you're saying is actually meaningful, if it's actually authentic, if it's engaging. It's just real life. This is how people talk. You know, we club over our words and we take long pauses. And so.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can agree with that. I used to, because I do podcast. Well, obviously we're on my podcast, Instagram. But there's certain episodes I'll listen to them back. And I'm like, that's what you sound like when you talk. But then I'm like, you know what? I'm not about to change it. Let me see. Oh, thank you, Denise. She says she followed. But there would be, let me see what she said before I continue.
Oh,
yes,
I agree with that,
I'm
Denise.
here for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so there'll be like moments I'll listen to it back and I'll like want to edit something out. And then after me doing so much like spiritual self-love work, I'm like, nope. Unless it's completely fumbled, I'm not doing it. I was like, at the end of the day, I want it to still, like you said, the message to come across authentic. And if I was really sitting here talking to people, or just like we're on the live, this is how I would talk. Mm-hmm. So this is the conversation that you would expect out of me. More people are going to be able to connect with my journey, just like they can connect with your journey, if you come off as you, instead of trying to like make everything fit in this tiny box when the vision's much bigger than that.
And honestly, I think after this age of influencer culture and, you know, all of what that's become, I think that audiences have become really savvy and can sniff out when you're being disingenuous. You know, when it's a sponsored post, like if you actually really love the brand, or if you're just, you know, reading it off of a brand script or whatever, you know. Modern day audiences are very savvy to that, and so you might as well just be authentic, because it takes too much energy to be fake. And if you're putting too much energy into something that's not authentic, like you're only doing yourself a disservice at that point, you know. And so you gotta be patient and accepting of yourself when you don't get it perfect, and that's fine, because that's literally a reflection of humanity and how people interact and communicate. People don't sit there, you know, talking normal conversations like on these perfect podiums like a motivational speaker saying, you know, super scripted.
They still have their moments where they're very human when they speak, so it just like it has more impact, I feel like.
And I honestly think that's why TikTok has exploded in the recent years, because you know, we had like a whole decade of the perfectly curated Instagram feeds where everyone was taking photos with like professional cameras and DSLRs, and it was edited so nice and bright. And then you have a platform like TikTok where people will literally just like record in their beds, like from their phones, and
Literally.
you know, makeup smeared, or just like they just come as they are, you know, which is a really, really interesting shift. But I'm here for it because it's like, what are we all performing for? You know, it's
Right.
it's an interesting shift for sure. And like one more quick little thing to piggyback off that I'll share that I thought was interesting is I'm always plugging this book because it was so eye-opening to me, but it's called Atlas of the Heart by Brene Brown. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Brene Brown.
No, but I'm gonna have you send me this link.
Oh yes, oh girl, I'm gonna send you so many links. I'm such a Brene Brown fan. So stupid. She should give me a affiliate code or something.
Literally, speaking into existence.
Right. So she is a research. I believe she has like an MSW, and she's a research. She's been doing research for over 20 years on vulnerability and shame. She has like a psychology background and everything, so everything she does is really scientific. It's not like super. It's not just like woo-woo stuff, you know. And this book, Atlas of the Heart, it's basically kind of like a based off of her research, a way to give language to very complex human emotions, like things that very complex and complicated feelings that we don't always have language for. So it's a really, really interesting read. That's why it's called Atlas of the Heart. It's kind of like an encyclopedia for processing emotions. So really, really great. I couldn't help but relate so much of it to being a creative and just creating, just because that's just my world, my everyday that I'm in. And there is a little chapter on perfectionism, or a little section on perfectionism. And I think a lot of us creatives across the board can relate to kind of the problem of perfectionism. And she says that something that really stuck with me is that perfectionism is a form of shame. And that hit me really hard, because I think that in our culture, especially like in you know, the school system, the American public school system that we are brought in, and then just like the American capitalist economy and society that we're in, being a perfectionist is looked at as a really good thing. It's like a very desirable characteristic or trait to have, right? And so when someone gets called a perfectionist, or you call someone a perfectionist, you're like, oh, that means that they're on top of their shit. They have a really keen eye and attention to detail, not realizing that anything that misses that mark or falls below that becomes a source of shame. And so basically, she says that the opposite of perfectionism is radical self-acceptance. So if you think about that in terms of content creation, right? You know, you don't want to post something until it's absolutely perfect. If it's not perfect, then I'm not going to post it, because I have to present myself like in a way that I would ideally and like in a perfect world want to be represented by. But that's not real life. You know, you can curate and edit, you know, and produce your little videos and your little social media posts and everything, so you can have a sense, or like a perceived sense of control of how other people are perceiving you. But that's not reflective of real life in the real world. When you go out and interact with real people, like, you can't control how they're going to perceive you. And so the best you can do is to be really good with yourself, and to just be radically accepting of yourself. And then from there, it's going to be okay to post those videos with the mess ups, with the likes and the buts and the whatever, where you mess up and all of that, because then you've released yourself from that impossible standard of perfection.
Exactly. I love that. And you know what's crazy? The fact that you said that, And like with this Instagram and then also my TikTok that I have for this, it's the videos where it's like one take Jake and I'm not really trying, but it's like, oh, I really like how that came out. And then I post it and then the views and the engagement's really good. And I was like, maybe all my content should just be winging it at this point. Now, obviously with my podcast, I have like topics and I pre-plan it, but like with the video content, so far the audience has been more engaging when it's just like, okay, like I'll see a certain song or something viral and I'll be like, how can I adapt that to my content? Okay, I have an idea, let's try it. And then
that's kind of how it ends up going. Oh, and hey Josh, your life. Wait, let's see what he said.
Hi Josh.
Reminds me of when I was in school, I'd have papers in, but I wouldn't turn them in if I didn't feel it was perfect. It took me a long time to accept that there are no final drafts. Oof.
Man.
Period.
Literally.
Yeah. No, and I think that's something that a lot of creatives struggle with too, is like trying to determine when is the final draft, you know, because, and when I say creatives, I don't just mean people that work in a creative profession or field. I truly believe that everyone is a creative and can tap into creativity at some, because that's how our brains work, you know. We come up with new ideas, we innovate and all of that. And so I think that with creatives who do creative projects and whatnot, it's really, really hard to find where that line is with the final draft. There's always something that can be tweaked. There's always like a tiny, minute detail that can be nitpicked at, that can be. But the fact of the matter is, most of the time, your audience is literally never going to notice or see or care about those little details. And that's why it's also really important to know your audience, because back in the YouTube days, YouTube like a boomer platform now. Not really, but I feel like Gen Z looks at YouTube like that, and so it's really funny because they're so about TikTok nowadays. But you know, with YouTube production culture and like content culture, it's more where the standard is a little bit more at a produced level, you know, where people do use nicer cameras and equipment and spend a little bit more time editing and whatnot. But what ends up happening is edits can take so long. First of all, editing, I don't know if people understand like how extensive the video editing process actually is until they sit down and do it. And so for so many reasons I don't have to go into, but there is a point where it's like you're just doing all these little minor fixes and edits for yourself at that point. But at the end of the day, like the average person is literally not going to notice or care whether or not you did that little edit, unless your audience is like professional videographers, let's say. Then you should probably keep your shit up to par and keep it to a standard, because you know you don't want to diminish your authority on the subject. But if it's just like, if you know your audience is just like regular people, then bro, it's not going to matter if, as long as you have a clear, like a decent picture and decent audio, that's all they care about. And that like the content itself is actually engaging to some degree, then it's not worth, you know, just like killing yourself over all these little tiny details until you get an immaculate draft. Sorry, that was a little bit of a tangent, by the way.
No, you're good. I can relate, so I'm totally here for it. It's just cool, especially even with the audience like engaging and telling situations that they have that are similar, or what these conversations are bringing up memories for them. So it's really cool to hear how everyone relates to different details and their background with the same thing.
I love that too.
Most definitely. So we're gonna make it a little bit lighter. What are your favorite apps?
My favorite apps are no apps. I hate. Kind of. Honestly,
like, no.
Honestly, it is so ironic that I'm in the field that I'm in, because there are so many times where I wish I could just like move to a private island that has everything I need. It's just like me and my friends, basically. We all live in bungalows, like on this island. We talk about it all the time. And we just get, you know, supplies delivered, and we have a community garden, and we just like do not interact with society, like for the most part. And just that's my dream at this moment, is
Go
that
off grid.
I want to go, I want to be able to go off the grid at some point. That sounds so nice. But
It does.
yeah, it's so ironic that this has been the field that I've been in for over 6 years now at this point. So, and
Right?
I, I still love it. I've learned to find the joy in it again. There was a while where there was no joy in it for me anymore, but I am back on the mend to where it's like I am finding like creative joy in the work that I do again, which is really nice. But when it comes to favorite apps, do you mean just like any apps, or do you mean social media apps?
Social media. I mean, we can do both, honestly, because I was thinking just social media, but since you said you want to be off grid at some point, let's do social media and then other apps following.
Oh my God. I think that my favorite social media app right now is probably, it's honestly a tie between YouTube and TikTok. Just
Okay.
personally, like as a consumer, as somebody, yeah, as a viewer, YouTube videos are part of my morning routine. Like when I'm making my coffee, I love watching new videos from like my favorite content creators that I feel very inspired by creatively and otherwise. And then TikTok, even though TikTok is quickly turning into other things, I still appreciate what kind of like what we talked about,
Yeah.
the authenticity of it. It's very refreshing that there's just a lot of raw and authentic content on there. And so I definitely, my little kind of like, it's not really a secret, but my way of dealing with these apps when it comes to work and then my personal life and everything is just having separate accounts and having separate times for it. So it's like if I am on this account that we're streaming from right now, it's probably during my work day, you know, and I'm probably being very intentional about being on here, you know, interacting with people in my network, my industry,
Yeah.
perspectives, whatever. But then I also have like a personal account that I keep to, like, you know, you follow it. It's like literally my handful of closest friends. And on there, like I have no content strategy. I don't care.
Like you just live
I,
your life.
I just post whatever about my personal life. And then I have like my close friends story too. And it's like, that's, I will use those accounts in my personal time. But usually it's like sectioned off
Yeah.
like that. And so I still, that's how I can still enjoy these apps.
Okay. And Denise said, what kind of content do you watch on YouTube?
Yeah. I kind of have just like a few favorite creators that I watch religiously. Mostly, I would say like lifestyle lifestyle creators. Just to give an idea, some of my favorite ones are Sophia Chang. She is a vlogger. I what I love about her videos is that I think over the years she's evolved into her authenticity and like learned how to be more real and less polished and less perfect, and has learned to like share the good and the bad and all of the in betweens. So I really respect the balance that she found with that. But then also she has gotten ridiculously good at visual storytelling and videography, and her editing like over the years has just become amazing. Like I could tell that she's talked about how she's like taken some classes on Skillshare on like filmmaking and stuff to help make her vlogs better and whatnot, but I could tell she really took it to heart. And so with her, I feel inspired to like go like get back on YouTube at some point and use it more as like a creative outlet, you know, and put together similar videos like that. And so then other ones I also like really watching productivity creators and mindset creators. And so my top for that, one is Jen Im, who is also kind of like a lifestyle vlogger, Jenn space I am. She's lifestyle, but then she's also extremely inspirational and motivational. I think she's just a badass.
I love that.
But also really real. She's a Virgo, if that makes any sense at
One
all.
of my closest friends is a Virgo, so I'm here for it.
Already
Virgos
know.
are very like,
they're just on top of it.
okay, I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
If you want to get your shit together, make sure you have a Virgo friend on the team.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
Right.
they're not going to let you slack. They'll tell you about yourself.
Seriously. Oh my God. Them and Capricorn women also are just, they amaze me so much. But another really big channel that has helped me so much. Oh, y'all need to write this one down.
Journals and pens, guys. Journals and pens.
Oh my gosh. Her name is Rowena Tsai. So it's Rowena, Rowena space Tsai, Tsai. So she has a lot of productivity videos, but she kind of in a way really inspired me to read more too, just because a lot of her productivity and mindset stuff is geared towards more like a more gentle and realistic and practical way of applying these things.
Okay.
And she gets a lot of quotes and advice that she gives on her channel from books. She's very well read.
I love that.
So I feel like she's motivated me and inspired me to read more. I've taken so many of her book recommendations.
How do you spell her last name again? I'm going to pin it in the comments.
Yeah, it's Tsai.
Okay. I'm about to post it. Let me know if I spelled it correct. I think I did, but...
Oh, almost. It was an R. Here, I'll type it too.
Okay, I tried. I did.
It was a good effort. That was a good idea.
And then when you do it, I'll pin it.
Yeah.
I should be able to pin it. Hey, how come it's not doing it when I do it?
Maybe you're special and only you can do it because this is your stream.
Okay, I'm gonna retype it. Hold on. Before it goes away.
Oh, look at you, so dedicated to providing references and resources.
Yes. Did I do
You
it
got
right
it.
this time? Yay. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And she also has a podcast too, I believe. It's called Voice Hugs.
Oh, nice.
Isn't that a cute title? Voice Hugs.
I like that. Literally.
Yeah.
Literally. Also, I have a recommendation because you said that she has a lot of positive, inspiring, and uplifting content. I don't know if you're familiar with who Jay Shetty is, but
yes,
he has a YouTube channel. Yeah, dope. And a podcast on Spotify is called On Purpose. And I definitely think it's a resource that you would really enjoy, since now you're saying that you like that kind of content.
Oh, I love podcasts and YouTube and all the recommendations, book recommendations. Jay Shetty, I will definitely have to actually hop on to and check out, because you are not the first person who's recommended him to me. You're probably actually like the third or fourth or maybe even fifth person at this point. So maybe this is a sign that I need to go some of his stuff out.
Right. So you can only pin one comment at a time. Interesting. I'm learning stuff here because I'm like,
I'm stuff too. Ironically, I am not well versed at live streams at all. This is probably like my second or third live stream ever. I think it's my third one.
Good talk. Good talk. I like how it's going.
So thanks for having me.
Right, no problem. You're getting good. See, now you got the experience with it.
Oh my gosh. I know it used to be so scary to think about for me, because my whole experience is video, like produced videos, video production. And it's like all pre-recorded, and then it goes to like post-production and all of that. And so the thought of live video to me in real time just sounded absolutely terrifying. But it goes back to that whole thing where it's just like, oh, if you mess up or if you blank out or whatever. And so the more that I have just given myself grace to not be perfect, the easier the idea has gotten for me. So thank you for helping me along the way.
No problem. I'm glad that I can be of service. So with that, and like giving yourself grace and your mental health journey and taking the steps to have a positive and healthy journey for yourself, what are some things, like you said, you mentioned books and podcasts. podcast. But what are some strategies that you practice on a daily basis to strengthen your mental health and the relationship that you have with yourself?
Ooh, good. Yeah, so good questions. These are not on the fly questions. I can tell that like you've put a lot of thought and intention into it, so I really appreciate that. Um, I I would say that I think one, just being honest and self-aware of, where my downfalls are, because sometimes I have a problem with not admitting to myself, what area needs improvement. And, I'll make excuses for myself. And so just being real with yourself, step one,
Step one, that TikTok.
Mhm. Step one, where you could use improvement. And so one big thing for me that I had to accept was that mindless scrolling on social media is very harmful mentally for me. It makes me feel less creative. It makes me feel just like unmotivated, and I don't feel like motivated to do anything or be productive after I found myself on an app and not remembering how I got on that app, and then I was scrolling on it for the past like 20, 30 minutes,
Yeah.
like with no real intention. It's different if you're like, all right, I want to take a break, and so I'm just gonna chill and like scroll on social media. Like that's different. So I think that what I'm trying to say is being intentional about my digital usage, I guess, and not trying to limit the instances where I find myself like getting there and not remembering how I got there or why I even got on there. Like everything with intention. And then I also wait until after I've done my morning routine with myself before I allow anything else from like other profiles and whatnot and other energies to affect me. But I try to like fill myself up very intentionally, like I was talking about. When I'm making coffee, I watch, my favorite YouTube creators, and then I read while I drink my coffee. And yeah, it's really nice to like pair these little healthy habits so that way you can make sure it's part of your everyday. I learned that from the book Atomic Habits, by the way. If anyone struggles with
Soul Tribe, I have
this
that. I have
book
the
is
PDF on my computer too.
Right? Oh my God. Yeah, I'm not even surprised that you have it. You know what it is, because it's like every just like excellent person I know loves that book. So yeah, and then most recently, I think the biggest, oh my gosh, the biggest, most, I think, like game-changing thing that I've gotten into recently, it sounds like such a cliche answer, but meditation. I'm on my first like 2 week streak, and I've never meditated before like 2 weeks ago. And that was because I was always intimidated by the concept, and I was always scared of meditation because just to get real for a second, like I've just still been healing from like back-to-back trauma over the years, and so I didn't want to be alone with my thoughts, and I thought that meditation was just like being really silent and just breathing for like 20-30 minutes straight. And I'm like, I could never do that. That literally gives me anxiety to think about just doing nothing and being alone with my thoughts for 30 minutes, because it can get dark in there. So I absolutely not. I don't want to do that. And I found this amazing app that's helped me so much. It's called Balance, if anyone wants to check it out. It's normally $70 a year, but for a limited time right now, they're offering the first year free, and just like asking for donations because they believe that mental health resources shouldn't be withheld from people that just because of like financial challenges or issues. And so definitely check it out if anyone is looking for a good meditation app. And I think the difference that the reason why this one has helped me so much is because it helped me realize that meditation isn't just sitting and breathing, and they have so many personalized meditations based off of what your goals are. So for me, a big thing for me was I wanted to be able to sleep better, because I was having a lot of challenges with like insomnia and just not feeling well rested, and just like waking up a lot through the night and having anxiety. And this app showed me that meditation is so many other things other than just breathing. In fact, like I only just started doing some meditations that involve breathing, but there's a lot of it that's like mindfulness. And you can also, there's a meditation for like if you want to try to jump into creativity, and there's a meditation for if you want to just for your commute, like, you know, if you want to have your eyes open and kind of like meditate while you're driving while still being aware. And then there's like meditation for stress or for like wanting better focus and all that. And so it's really nice that you can go on there and kind of like choose how you feel. Yeah, curate, exactly. And then it's so personalized because every time you do one and it gets your feedback on it, then it like further adapts and further personalizes like the other recommendations, like other specific meditations for you. And they'll even like create plans for you and stuff based off of like your skill level and how you felt about your last meditation. So
nice.
It's been amazing. It's really like it's changed so much for me. I've been sleeping a lot better. I feel like I've been able to focus more when I need to. I did a nap meditation today.
Nice. Did you
like
get some rest?
It was awesome. I was just like, and normally it takes me a while to fall asleep because my mind is just like running at 200 miles an hour with so many thoughts. And like this guided nap meditation, I was like asleep in like 5 minutes, and then it wakes up like 15 minutes later.
Right.
So if anyone's looking for a good meditation app,
it's called Balance, guys.
Balance, yeah.
And then also, along with what you said, because you said you're starting to get into the breathwork side of meditation, I'll be doing a segment on that within my podcast.
Ooh, I know you have so much to say about that.
Of course, babe. And to tie it in with you dealing with certain traumas and things that you've experienced. Now, with breathwork, what most people don't know, the breath helps you when you're able to control your breath. It allows you to get out of your head and into your body. Just like when you work out and you release endorphins and you get that pain pleasure response, it's similar to that. But with breath work, once you learn to control your breath from anywhere pushing out at fast speeds like or slow, calm to control your mind, it's gonna create an emotional response. For me, throughout the times that I've done it, it's made me cry, or it's pulled up certain things that I didn't know that I had buried because I'm not really in my head anymore. My body's just reacting at that point. And so it allows you to heal from a different standpoint.
Like a logical standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And also, isn't it true that, I think I heard this somewhere with breath work, some people have gone on to like have been able to release like DMT and their brain's gone like full trips
like
the way that you would go. Yeah, on like a psilocybin or LSD trip or something. It's like they would see or get the same effects just purely off
what breath. Most people, I'm definitely going to have to do a segment on this with my podcast. If more people tapped into meditation and breath work, what they realize is the same chemicals that are released, like the dopamine and the serotonin, the things that we have that create addiction. Like people constantly go back. But once you get into the breath work and you release the trauma and the responses and everything, and you learn how to control that, essentially you be able to overcome those addictions instead of leaning towards smoking like most people do, or drinking, or whatever bad habits. This would allow you to tap into, instead of numbing it, being able to heal it and release it instead of self-medicating. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's like reversal.
Yeah. There's definitely so much science to it that I'm learning, because even like the app that I'm using, it also educates you, you know, little bite-sized pieces of like the benefits of meditation and research-backed findings on how it literally changes your brain.
Yeah.
So.
Oh my gosh, I have another book gym recommendation. So it's called, yes, it's called It Didn't Start With You by Mark Rowland. And it's pretty much, it talks about how genetically we're passed down traumas and different karmic cycles, and how people say generational curses. It's similar to that, but the scientific part of it is whenever you go through something traumatic, it actually changes a bond within your DNA. So with that happening, in response to that, when you have a child, your DNA's changed. So now essentially you're passing on that genetic trait to your child, and it's being passed on and passed on and passed on. And it helps you realize and identify what those tendencies are and what those generational curses are, and realizing that it's not a you thing, it's a whole rewiring that has to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oof. And I know that we're running up on time, but I guess like the last thing I'll say about that, just to piggyback off it, is I think that more people who are wanting to either get into content creation or who are already like in a creative sort of position need to recognize how much your personal trauma and unprocessed trauma and like personal challenges in your life can affect the way that you create, and it can manifest essentially and like show up in the content that you put out, essentially be like projecting unprocessed trauma or just like repressed things that you don't intend to be putting out there, but it's coming through. And so that's why it's really important to take care of yourself and to, you know, start with you first before you worry about all these other people.
Exactly. I love that. And before concluding our live stream, is there any advice to the audience watching that's been seeing our stream? What advice would you give them on mental, whatever you want to say, from mental health or social media content creation, whatever the case may be? What advice do you want to extend to them?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I think the biggest thing is to just give yourself grace to not be perfect. And especially if you're just starting out, like it's going to be messy, just accept it. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be uncomfortable. But you're going to grow through it if you just keep going and don't let numbers or comments or anyone else be make or break when it comes to what you're putting out. You know, if you feel proud of what you've put out, or if you found value in what you put out because it was like a way of expressing your creativity, or if you found joy in the process, especially if you found joy in the process, then it was valuable content right then and there. And it doesn't have to be perfect right then and there, because every time you do it, you're going to get better and you're going to get better. And so just expect that it's basically going to be really ugly and messy and shitty at the beginning. Part of the process. The only difference between you and your favorite creators is that they just kept going and they didn't stop. They didn't have perfect beginnings either. So I think just trust the process, but make sure you know what that process is, so that way you could trust it.
I love that. Yes, that's an amazing way to end the stream. Thank you so much for being a part of this collaboration. I definitely will have to bring you back for another stream. I enjoyed this so much.
I love conversations with you. Like, this is basically what our conversations sound like.
All the time. Y'all, this is literally how we talk when we just hang out. Y'all are just witnesses to a conversation between friends.
No, right. No, love it. And so thank you for having me on. I'd be happy to come time. And again, I just love conversations with you. So thank you for having me.
Most definitely. And I hope you have a wonderful evening, hon.
Thank you. I hope everyone has a wonderful evening too. Oh, I said B-Wash Media just joined. Good night, everyone. Good night, Denise.
Good night, guys. Right. Thank y'all for tuning in. Bye.